Hey everyone, we're here today with the teams from Figment and Secret, and later we'll be joined by some folks from the Enigma team as well. But we want to jump right in today to get to the meat of the content. We'll get to a lot of Q&A later, but first we want to show you what we're here to talk about today, which is called the Learn Pathway. And we want to show you how you can learn from nothing, from a machine with nothing on it, to deploying your first secret contract in 5 steps. And so without further ado, we're going to get right to the meat of it, and then we'll get to all your questions later, but we want to get you right to the good stuff right away. So Yannick, do you want to share your screen, tell a little bit about what Learn is, and then also I'll give a demo of how people can use it.
Sounds good, yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Yannick, product manager at Figment, adding the initiative with our Learn program. So for those that are not familiar yet with what Learn is, I'll present to you our thesis and what we wish to accomplish with Learn. So let me share my screen. 1 second, Chrome tab. Okay. Can you see my screen? Andy,
yep, looks good.
Is it okay? Okay, perfect. So
take it away.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for coming today for the Learn presentation, and we're very excited to add Secret to the protocols that devs are able to learn about using our platform. So, Figment got into the developer infrastructure and developer tooling in 2020, and we quickly realized that one of the major issues was the lack of documentation or lack of standardization of documentation, and the factor of how complicated it is to find out which protocol would be right for you and compare them, to find out which blockchain is actually right for your DApp. So that was the initial thesis behind Learn. Basically, finding a way to create one single hub of information for devs, where you would be able to navigate every relevant protocol, find all the API documentation you need, and also to accelerate your learning by finally having access to tutorials. So that's what we've built. So Figment Learn is a unified, standardized documentation platform, what we call the Web3 knowledge base, where we've taken every protocol that we support in Datahub, which is 9 protocols so far today, and you're able to find the API documentation and the information about that protocol exactly in the same way from one protocol to another under the same roof. So it becomes super easy to learn about new protocols, find the right fit for you, and get started in building your project. But the great part as well is the incentivization of learning and sharing. So our goal is to make it easier for devs to get onboarded to a new protocol, to learn how to deploy smart contracts, and then create more advanced applications, but also get incentivized in the process and earn tokens and become an active stakeholder in a protocol that they pick. So the concept is what we call learn to earn. So with the Secret pathway, for example, you'll be able to complete short tutorials that will take you from connecting to a node all the way to deploying your first Secret smart contract. You'll be able to earn up to $50 in tokens for doing so. And you're able to do all those tutorials for free using Datahub, which is our hosted infrastructure service. So no need to worry about running your own nodes or finding other hosted service. We got everything covered. The tutorials are integrated right inside your dashboard. So it becomes a super easy experience, as Andy will show you quickly after this short presentation. And Also, a big part of Learn is increasing the size of the knowledge base. And we would not be able to create enough content for every protocol, for every dev, for every taste, for every type of dApp category. So our goal is to recruit contributors from the community. So devs that have experience building on a given protocol, that are very passionate, for example, about a given topic, whether it's NFTs, whether it's DEX, an AMM, more advanced smart contracts, structures, and so on. So if you're interested in contributing some knowledge to the knowledge base and to Learn and to help your fellow devs learn quicker, then we pay up to $500 in secret for that opportunity. So as you'll see, the process is very simple. We'll run through it in a minute, but basically you sign up to Datahub, then you complete all 5 tutorials that will be presented to you and available in your Datahub dashboard. As soon as you submit the completion form, you'll earn $50 in secret tokens that will be sent to you in a 7 days delay. Usually we always send the payments on Fridays. So don't worry if you're not receiving them after 12 hours, it will get there. And again, once you're comfortable and you feel like you're ready to contribute and share your knowledge with others, you can reach out via the website. We have a form to become a contributor, and then or directly reach out to us, and then we'll be able to evaluate if you're a good candidate to write tutorials for Learn. So that's the overall concept. I'll pass it on to Andy for a quick demo now.
Yeah, and the first thing I would say is that what Yannick was talking about is not just theoretical. To actually work on this pathway, which we're about to demo, we worked with someone from the community. So I think we worked with Tariq on this one. Is that right, Yannick?
That's right. The tutorials you'll get to do during the pathway are actually a product of Tariq. From the secret community. So, and you will be able to share his insights, but we're generous and we want to include as much as possible great contributors from the community.
Great. Okay. I'm sharing my screen. Yannick, can you see that I've got Learn pulled up?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. So the important thing is this is a good place to start, learn.figment.io. And like Yannick mentioned, the goal is to be the Web3 knowledge base. And what we're doing is we're trying to really focus on single protocols at a time. And the one we're focusing on today is Secret. So if you go here and you go Secret Pathway, that's a great place for you to get started. So you go here. The first thing it says is you can sign up for an account on Datahub. You can click right from here. That will take you over to this website, datahub.figment.io. I'm already logged in. And you can see here any number of protocols. You can add as many as you want. I've already added the secret protocol, but if I don't have it, I just click this little button and it's added. So I'll go in here and I'll see what's available to me here. Okay, so I have access to the testnet. I have access to mainnet. I can use different services. I can click into documentation where it shows me my special API keys I can use. Once I start sending a request, I'll get analytics about my usage. I can see failed requests, errors, all that kind of stuff. But what we really want to talk about today is let's assume you've never developed anything on Secret before. How would you get started? Well, if you scroll down here, you'll see these tutorials. And the thing that's really cool about this approach that we've taken is that it's sort of like a testing approach where you can go through each step and we will actually verify automatically that you've successfully completed the step. So step 1 is connect to the Secret node. If I click start, it should take me to the website where I can actually go and step by step go from having a brand new computer with nothing installed on it, every step of the way, installing Node, installing all the packages you need from Secret, all the way through, getting my API key, setting up my chain. We're basically taking you through every single step, as well as providing code that you can use to get started. So once I think I've done this, once I think I've connected to my Secret node, I can go ahead and click verify. Now, I've not actually done this, so I'm expecting an error here when I click verify, but that's really the point, is you'll know if you've actually completed each step of the way. So verify, and yep, oh, something went wrong. I've not submitted any request yet. I just started. But if I do get stuck, I go ahead and click this handy link to our Discord, and there's plenty of people who are going through this together in Discord. We also have developer relations support people ready to help. So if you do get stuck, you should definitely join our Discord to get some real-time help. We might not be able to respond right away. We're building an FAQ of commonly seen errors, but the point is that we can help you go step by step through creating all your contracts every step of the way. And if you get stuck, there's real-time chat support. So I just wanted to show that sort of how the start plus verify works. And once I verify, I can get to the next step and on and on and on. But this pathway, the sort of the initial secret pathway, has 5 steps. And it's a really great way to go from having nothing installed and no knowledge to have really at the end of this, you'll have a smart contract deployed. And so whether you've developed smart contracts on other chains, if you've never done one before, I think both use cases can be served by this. We also have some extra things you can do as well, which Yannick mentioned in terms of sending out notes on Twitter or Medium or GitHub. There's a lot more you can do than just go through these tutorials, but the tutorials are a great place to start. Okay, I think I'll pause there. The key thing is we have this website Learn, which is where you can go through tutorials, and then Datahub, which is our sort of secret node hosting service, which you can verify the tutorials that you've completed. And this is available now. We just launched this. Anyone can go and sign up right now. So go ahead to either learn.figment.io or datahub.figment.io and get started. Okay, I'm going to shift now into the next section of our presentation today, which is a Q&A. So I'm going to invite up as well Reuven from the team. And we've also got Tor here. So Reuven from Enigma, and we have Tor from the Secret Foundation. And we've asked for some questions from the community, and we're going to go through them. And if you have any questions as well, there is a nice little ask a question link down at the bottom of this crowdcast. Go ahead and ask them now, and we'll get to those at the end. But we've already collected some ahead of time, and so we're going to go through those now. All right, it looks like Reuven's coming on board.
Hello.
You guys
Hey,
hear me?
guys.
There we go.
Hey.
Second.
Okay.
I have a family member making noise outside, but I hope that's not being heard. I have a young niece playing in the backyard.
This is par for the course. This is the state of the world. We're all working with our friends and family right now. So I'm sure I'll have a lot of clunky things going on in my background too, but it's all be expected.
My gosh, I have a vacuum.
She literally.
Who put that there?
Yeah, you can see my window here and stuff. No, like she literally just showed up and like. Yeah. Okay. Seems like they're gone. Cool.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, Reuven, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Reuven. I'm one of the Enigma core developers. We work on the secret network. We're like one of the main developers for the secret network itself. I've been working with Enigma for almost 2 years now. I've been with the secret network from the start. Yeah, that's basically it.
Great. And then Tor, if you want to take a second to quickly introduce yourself, and then it'd be interesting to hear, what you're hoping that this project can accomplish for Secret in terms of what we can do with Learn and what we can do for the folks who are interested in Secret.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Tor. I'm the founder over at Secret Foundation, which is a very unique entity, I think, in our ecosystem, but also in any ecosystem. We have an explicit focus within the secret network ecosystem on awareness, adoption, education, all the things that go towards, taking the amazing development work that goes on in the ecosystem and ensuring that there's users who pick up the applications and are actually using them, make sure there's developers who are actually getting hands-on with these kinds of tools like Datahub. That's our sole focus. We don't currently do any development for the network. We don't build applications. Instead, we put all of our focus and energy on those aspects of the project. We also help a lot with community governance and stewardship of governance within our ecosystem. It's a delegated proof of stake network, and Figment is one of the nodes in the network. And as a result, a lot of community involvement in our governance process happens directly on chain. A lot of it also happens off chain. So we help to uphold a lot of the norms, organize community committees, but we're not trying to be a central point of failure for the ecosystem. We're just trying to be an accelerant for the ecosystem. And to answer your question, Andy, I think Learn really works the same way. It's an accelerant for the ecosystem because to date, not just for us, this is a problem for every Web3 protocol. The documentation, the information about these networks is kind of scattered across a bunch of official and non-official channels. So if you're a developer who's trying to get hands-on with the network, trying to understand what differentiates that network, trying to understand what's possible today, or maybe sometime in the future, kind of differentiating the marketing materials from the actual materials, that's a really big challenge. I think Learn helps us solve that, because not only is it putting that information in one place, getting people hands-on with the critical network tooling like Datahub, but it's also, rewarding them for that opportunity immediately. So you don't just kind of wait around to see, like, am I getting some sort of value from engaging with the network, which usually for a developer happens down the line. You get users for your application, and then of course you're building additional applications. There's composability. It can be a long process before you start seeing the fruits of that labor. Reducing initial friction and giving people incentives upfront to engage with the network, and of course to submit their own tutorials. I think it's a really clever and really valuable model that a lot more projects in the space hopefully will follow, because it seems to be in the best interest not only of the projects but of the developers themselves.
I'm glad you mentioned developers, because that's what we're here to talk about today. Is really, this is about developers, people who either are currently developing and want to get deeper or want to start developing on Secret. And so let's start there from the top. Let's say that you're new to Secret. What's the pitch for a developer? What new sort of primitives do you have available to you? What's special about Secret, and why should a developer consider it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give a high level answer, and then I hope Ruben can chime in since he's on the ground floor with a lot of the development. What at a high level Secret Network is differentiated on is it's, as far as we're aware, the only mainnet blockchain that allows for smart contracts with encrypted inputs, encrypted outputs, and encrypted state, which is more of a technical answer, but what that unlocks is data privacy for Web3 applications. To date, a lot of what people do in Web3 is just completely public by default. And that's because of how blockchains are designed. That's not a bug, that's a feature of blockchains. But it becomes a bug when you try to use blockchains as sort of these platforms for distributed applications. And then you need to be taking in private and sensitive data as inputs, maybe from a single source or from multiple sources, and then you're trying to compute on that data. So Secret Network was trying to unlock this new functionality for Web3, whereby you can have a decentralized application, but also be protecting privacy for users. I say all the time when I do appearances or anything else, like, decentralization really needs privacy to work, but we also believe that privacy really needs decentralization to work. If you're entrusting all of your privacy and all of your protections to centralized organizations, we're already seeing a lot of failures of that in the legacy world. The answer is not just to throw everything on a blockchain, though. Blockchains aren't really set up to do that. If you try to build a decentralized Twitter or a decentralized Uber or something like that on Ethereum right now, you're going to run into 100 problems. But one big one will be the nature of data on the network, which is that everything is public by design. And on Secret, going privacy by design, privacy by default, actually allows you to have programmable privacy, meaning certain aspects can be public, certain aspects can be private. It's the application's choice, kind of how to be architected. But to date, there hasn't really even been choice. The only choice has been public or don't build it. I don't know. Right. And then, yeah, Ruben, if you want to expand on that at a more technical level or not technical level, sure.
Yeah, so Tor, of course, gave a beautiful high-level explanation of this. I don't think I would have been able to explain this much better than myself. You were asking about, what primitives does the network give people? And in my opinion, the strength here is that you aren't even aware of the primitives being there. Like, the code that you end up writing doesn't really care that stuff is encrypted, right? You just get inputs and we take care of everything for you. We make sure no one can ever see the inputs to your functions, right? Whatever you return, we make sure that only the user that sent the request will see the response. Whenever you access the storage, you just access the storage. We take care of everything for you, right? The real cool thing here is that you as a developer have a lot of stuff off your hands, taken off your hands, and taken care of by the platform itself. So developing things for Web 3.0 that require privacy just becomes a matter of not caring much about it and just coding what you would code otherwise, and just being able to sit back and relax and know that everything you store on the network is private and secure. And because everything you store on the network is secure, and because inputs and outputs are safe, you get to choose exactly what users can see in the first place. Only the stuff that you return from the secret contracts is visible, right? So you have complete permission control over everything you store.
Yep. Okay. I want to go a little bit off script, and I want to dive into a specific part of this, because I think something in my mind is really firing here, which is I can use these interfaces like I would in other networks, except I get something extra. I get something in return, which is I can encrypt my inputs, and I can decide what's shown. Let's say I've made a wallet for Ethereum, and I'm going to make a wallet for Secret. Do I have to then do anything extra to really handle these permissions? If say a balance or an input is not public by default, do I have to store anything extra for the user, or what do I have to do from that perspective, from like a wallet developer's perspective, to use these new functions?
Yeah. So first, keep in mind that the native token SCRT is completely public, just like most other tokens are.
Right.
But we have developed the SNP20 spec that's very similar to the ERC20 spec. SNP being like Secret Network Improvement Proposal. And in that specification, of course, balances are encrypted, and you can't just go to the contract and ask what is the balance of some other user. But then the problem is, okay, how can I see my own balance? So I see that comment. So the response to that is something we call viewing keys. As a user, I can interact with the contract, and I can request that the contract issues a viewing key for me. It's very similar to a generated password or an API key in other technologies. And basically, whenever I want to query the contract and access information that should only be available to myself, I can use that secret viewing key. Right, it's kind of like a private key in a sense, in order to get that information from the contract. So on the technical level, what happens is query messages to the contract may require a viewing key, right? I send the viewing key is private, but because inputs are private, right, I encrypt a message on my system. I send it to the secret contract. The secret contract can then securely see what viewing key, what password, so to speak, I sent to it, and then choose to give me the information that I need. So as a wallet developer developing for the Secret Network, or an Explorer developer and stuff like that, you need to be aware that most users will not be able to see most information. And if you want to show useful information to a user, you do need to ask the user for their credentials, or to integrate with a wallet or stuff like that. So there are a lot of different privacy considerations around everything you do that isn't just the native coin, and it will change based on which contracts you interact with.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping to learn about, and that makes a ton of sense. Thanks for going into that level of detail. I want to step back out from that deep dive and zoom out for a second. And you mentioned SNP, you mentioned privacy tokens. Do you see Secret Network as a privacy token hub for Cosmos, or how do you see privacy being used, and how do you see private tokens in Cosmos ecosystem? How do you see that playing out?
Well, kind of like you said, being a hub for privacy tokens, and we're already doing that. We have the bridge already live. Tor, if you can send the link to it, please.
Mono.
Yeah, thanks. We already have a live bridge where you can transfer your Ethereum assets to secret token assets on our network. And in the future, when we have IBC live and we have contact with the rest of the IBC ecosystem, with the Cosmos Hub ecosystem, we will allow people to basically transfer their tokens into our network and then convert them to secret tokens. And that's our vision in this sense, in the DeFi space. We want everyone to be able to transfer their tokens and assets into secret tokens and assets on our network.
Got it. And then Tor, maybe this is a question for you, but we're really excited about the bridge. We're one of the bridge operators. We think there's a lot of promise in it. And I think it's a good call out to say that right now there's a bridge to Ethereum, and later maybe a bridge to the rest of the Cosmos ecosystem with IBC. But let's say that this all works. Let's say that your vision continues to manifest. What then? Do you imagine most DeFi smart contracts are run in the context of the secret chain? How do you imagine the interactivity with other chains?
It's a great question. I like that we're presupposing we succeed. I like to answer questions that start with, so what if it works, as opposed to the alternative, what if it crashes and burns? Well, the good news is it's already working. So as I'm mentioning in the chat, we're super excited to see the early adoption of the Ethereum bridge. And in the last 24 hours, we've added another $10 million of TVL to the network in ETH and ERC20s. So these are assets that have already come over from the Ethereum universe. The reason we care about that so much is because the success of DeFi ecosystems and DeFi applications really comes down to liquidity and availability of yield and availability of exchangeability. So something that makes Secret really unique in all of this is that DeFi applications built on Secret Network have a lot of privacy, usability, and security advantages. For example, we have an AMM in development on Secret Network, an automated market maker that's front-running resistant by design, which is a massive problem in the ETH universe. We won't go into the issues that ETH has with fees, for example, with interacting with applications, where I think we have some cost advantages as well. But that cross-chain nature of our DeFi ecosystem is another advantage. Can we pull in from Ethereum, Cosmos, and beyond, right? Whatever bridges we're able to support are really bridges that should exist for the ecosystem. It's just a matter of community demand and bandwidth. The ecosystem will succeed if a couple major things. One, if the applications really are providing a better user experience through its privacy protections and front-running protections. If we have enough of those applications, right, enough liquidity-focused applications like the AMM, but we're also building out a decentralized over-the-counter trading dark pool sort of platform for direct exchanges of assets in block sizes, not like blockchain blocks, but block trading, large quantities of assets traded directly for each other permissionlessly. And then the last piece, of course, is just liquidity. If the applications are working, we'll have a lot of secret tokens created. And the more value we're pulling in from all these different ecosystems and having that value exchanged on Secret Network in any of these applications, the best part is all of these applications are going to be composable with each other, provided they're all built on top of secret token standards, SNP20s. But you can imagine that they can also make use of any other token standard on Secret Network, and you can issue secret NFTs on Secret Network. And you could have an OTC trade for an NFT. You put your own non-fungible token on Secret Network, which has private ownership and privacy protections, and you just put it up for auction. So I'm really looking forward to experimentation from artists. I'm looking forward to see how NFTs get implemented in flows for products, because I think secret NFTs function really well as a form of cookie in Web3, that you don't want your cookies public. You don't want your browsing history public. I certainly don't, but I hope that extends to all of us here. And it's the same sort of thing when we're talking about in the secret verse, what could be the potential use cases for this? I don't think we're going to suck up all DeFi liquidity everywhere. And I don't think every application will be built on Secret, but I hope a lot of developers make the choice to build on Secret because of these protections and because of the ease of use. And then I hope a lot of users choose to use those applications because of the liquidity, the usability, and just generally loving data privacy and being protected in Web3. And my cat's here.
Okay. Oh, yep. Hey, the cat has joined the call. Very good. So let me try to do some Imagineering on the fly. Let's say that there are other Cosmos zones that have some sort of DeFi functionality. Do you imagine that someone sends a token to Secret? You could send back a secret version of that token, and then they use that in their zone, or is that too far afield from what's available today?
Ruben, how much have you looked into what's feasible with IBC for beyond the token transfers or the coin transfers? Because there's secret tokens and then there's SCRT.
Right.
Yeah. So this is actually interesting. I haven't dug in as deep as I would like to, but from what I understand, IBC in principle allows you to pass messages between networks in a structured way. And the first application over this messaging system that the Cosmos guys are building is the token transfer protocol. In theory, you could do a lot more than this. You could even enable contract calls between networks. You can do a lot of really cool stuff, but none of it is built yet. Once IBC is live, and we've given this some time to mature. We do have, like, I wouldn't say plans quite yet, but we do have it in our minds to maybe enable cross-chain calls to secret contracts, and maybe do some fun stuff around that. So in theory, you can get a lot done with IBC. It's just not ready yet.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I put the caveat of Imagineering. I was just trying to think ahead about what might be possible. So yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense to me. Okay.
I would definitely like to see stuff built, but it's just not there.
Yep. Looking ahead a bit to what developers might do with Secret. One of the big challenges is, of course, even getting developers on board and getting them started. For the folks today that are thinking about getting started, what do you think the top 3 sort of stumbling blocks or pitfalls are for folks who might be new to either smart contract development or Secret specifically? And the reason for talking about this is just to try to get ahead of it, to say, hey, watch out for this, or here's where you might get tripped up. What can we help folks with as they're getting started?
Yeah, so I guess there's a few things here. First of all, the language that we choose to use here, Rust. I personally love it. A lot of people love it, but it's not the most trivial thing to jump into when you don't know about it, and it does require. I mean, you can get a lot done by kind of guess coding and just seeing what sticks. But eventually, if you want to write more complicated things, some non-trivial things, you will need to learn some of the Rust theory and what's going on. So that's something that I hope we can at least provide good guidance on in the future. Something else that's related to it is that the current SDK, so to speak, the current way of writing contracts is somewhat more complicated than ideal. There are a lot of improvements that we want to introduce there. So just like writing the contracts themselves in Rust is a simpler endeavor. So you need to know less complicated things in Rust. The code is more straightforward, JavaScript-y in a way. That's down the line right now. It's just not prioritized because we want to have applications built. But in the future, we do expect that the contents of your secret contract are going to be much simpler. You can, if people are listening in, networks like Near, for example, have done a good job with this, where you write your contracts in Rust, but it's a lot simpler than it is in our case. But of course, there are trade-offs for everything. The third thing is the privacy model itself. From what we've seen, a lot of people, this is unintuitive to people in a way. They're used to everything being public. They're not used to thinking about side effects of things or side channels to the way they interact with storage, the way their queries look on the network. There are a lot of weird little subtleties that people are just not used to thinking about culturally, and coming into our network, even though everything is encrypted, there can be side channels. Like a lot can be learned about how your users interact with your application just by their access patterns, right? Just by the way that your contract behaves. So that's I think that's a cultural issue more than a secret network issue. Yeah. And that's something that as privacy solutions, become more popular in this space, people are, more and more so are going to be required to just learn about these things and keep them in their minds.
Yep. Yeah, I love
so
that.
Those are like the 3 big things.
Yep. Basically. I love that you have these things to call out for people. I think instead of trying to, brush these things under the rug, which I think will ultimately lead to a lot of errors we've seen in Ethereum with hacks and reentrancy and all sorts of things like that. Let's bring it up to the front. Let's talk about if you want the superpower, if you want to get privacy in the way, here's extra things that we need to think about. There is clearly a benefit for the user, but as developers, let's make sure that as we're getting these new primitives, as we have these new tools, let's make sure we're understanding about them. And so my approach is always, let's just call that to the forefront. The worst thing would be someone doesn't know about this and then gets bit in production. So I appreciate you calling that out. And part of our goal with Learn is to try to help people understand these things, because there are some new things, which is great. And so I appreciate you going through all that.
Yeah,
Monica, do you have some?
Kind of like a few there's like a few warnings we give every developer that like becomes serious with us on our Discord channels. We have developer support, developer discussion channels and stuff like that. So if there are any developers in the audience, please join our Discord. We love talking to people about applications, about nuances in development. And these are like the three big warnings and pieces of advice that we give people that ask us questions over there.
Nice. And I'm curious to take a tangent here. What we've been seeing with what's happening with big tech recently. Do you have any plans to play around that to attract Web 2 devs to Secret? And in general, what's your plan for attracting Web 2 devs?
So with Web 2 devs, I can speak a bit to the foundations plan since we do a lot of like the adoption focused stuff. Again, like the learning curve, depending on where you're coming into this is different. If you're a Web 2 dev who doesn't sense any issues with Web 2, then maybe this isn't the network for you. If you're a Web 2 dev who's extremely conscious of the issues with centralization and how centralized companies currently treat your data. I used to be a data scientist at a large social media company. They don't treat it very nicely. So, but if you're a Web 2 dev who is aware of these issues, like we want to do more outreach to these devs to show them what's possible in the Web 3 ecosystem. A lot of the time, obviously, the first place they're getting onboarded is via the Ethereum ecosystem. So a lot of the time, the flow to me has felt like I'm a Web 2 dev. I've discovered Ethereum. Now that I've discovered Ethereum, I've run into this roadblock around data privacy. Okay, what are my options? What are my solutions? More and more with more of these L1s appearing, we are seeing more and more interest in these like non-Ethereum ecosystems just because they do seem to be getting more differentiated. It used to be before that it was just like we're Ethereum but faster. We're Ethereum but blue. And like Secret is Ethereum but with data privacy. And that's such a meaningful differentiator that taking advantage of the privacy narrative that's becoming more to the forefront, especially like, I would say last year, but also it's got spilled over into this year, makes it a lot easier to pull in the Web 2 devs who are already specifically privacy conscious. And then we show them how the protections in our ecosystem, how by combining decentralization with privacy, they can build something actually very valuable. I think it's going to be harder for us to like take Web 2 devs from scratch and just say Secret should be your #1 choice of development ecosystem until we grow substantially to be closer to the size, scope, scale on tooling and adoption like of something like Ethereum. But there's basically zero ecosystems that can claim they're remotely competitive to Ethereum. So I don't consider that a blocker. I just consider that a huge opportunity because we already have a lot of products live, like focused at bridging into the Ethereum ecosystem, focused on expanding what you can currently do on ETH. It'll be a long and fun process of education and also handholding, for sure.
Something that I've increasingly been thinking about is that I really want people to start seeing Secret Network as serverless, like twicefold, right? Like it's serverless without even paying to any big company for hosting. It's like you can just set up your application. It's somewhere out there on the blockchain or whatever, and it's live. It's doing its thing. You don't. You're not even paying to any to Amazon or to Google or Microsoft. You just have your application, and you don't worry about things leaking. You don't worry about people's privacy being at risk.
That makes sense. And you touched on some of the pain points around Rust smart contracts in your current state on Secret, but what would be, the #1 thing that devs have really enjoyed about Secret so far?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Tor would know better.
You wanted to give it a crack first, or should I? I was going to say the bubbly personalities.
Sure.
No, I think devs in general, I'll speak it again, like the community level, but then like Ruben, I mean, you've spent some time talking with some of the people who have tried to get hands-on in our ecosystem, and Tariq is in the chat still. I don't know if he wants to say from his perspective, because he's obviously done a lot of heavy lifting for Learn and for the network more generally. I think what we're trying to build is an extremely collaborative and communal atmosphere in the community. And again, it's easier to do that if you kind of know what the ethos of the project is around and what its differentiator is. If it's kind of like you're coming in and like, we're just going to be like a bigger ETH, a faster ETH, whatever it is, like you can get developers excited with some short-term incentives, but it's not sticky. The reason why we're excited to do something like Learn, it provides some short-term incentives, but it provides a lot of organization. And we're very confident that when developers start developing in our ecosystem, they'll see the differentiators of Secret Network as something that can keep them around. They see a future for their applications. They see the possibility to build things on Secret that aren't possible anywhere else in the Web3 space. And as long as that's our differentiator, I think that's super exciting, super sticky. And as an ecosystem, we're extremely welcoming on the developer side to new people. The only thing we really struggle with is time zones, honestly. But if we can get around some of those blockers and add more devs in more places who are able to also like give active support in the Discord, on the forum, et cetera, both at the protocol level and at the application level, that I think is really our big focus this year, is just sort of strengthening the bonds of the developer community and helping onboard people because we think the tech itself is very sticky.
Yeah. In my experience, the thing that people has kept developers around with us is, how responsive we've been to people, to people's questions, and helping them out wherever they need to. We've had several developers that have actively contributed to to our main repositories or to some of the products that we have been building on the network, because they were interested in it, and we just let them join us, let them help us develop things, and we would send PRs to them, they would send PRs to us. And for the most part, whenever they needed a feature, we always, it was either there or we found a way to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And we've just had a very smooth, very close relationship with our developers so far. And I think that's something
I should point out that this extends to you as well, Ruben. Ruben is a core contributor elsewhere in the Cosmos ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's worked very collaboratively.
Yeah, that's before even the launch of thank you, Thor. Before the launch of the secret contracts, we've worked with the Confio team on Cosmwasm. When we launched Secret Network in February, we needed to build a secret contract platform that was also secret, and all the fun stuff that we've had for months now. And a good starting point was what was Cosmwasm, which the Confio team was building. But it wasn't ready in a lot of ways. There were a lot of problems with it. There was a lot of missing features. And we just, we teamed up, we joined forces, we helped them bring their thing to market. We helped them build their thing to the end, while in parallel adding all the privacy features that we need into that same platform. And it's really cool that we ended up with two runtimes that are almost identical. They're built on a lot of shared technology. And we have that extra value in the end. So they helped us build our stuff, and we helped them build their stuff.
Makes sense. And what would you say you're most excited to see built on Secret, maybe during or after the Secret pathway?
Yeah. So, well, I guess it's a personal question, so I'll give a personal answer. DeFi is cool and everything, but in my opinion, the real potential for the network is privacy for normal people. I want to see applications that are built not for enthusiast level people or people that are inside the the blockchain cult in a way. Right? I want people to use products that in the back end they use Secret Network. They protect their users using Secret Network, but the users wouldn't even know that it's there. I want to be able to, a chat application is probably not practical, but I want to be able to give my mom a chat application that I can, vouch for, that I can tell her this is the most secure thing you'll ever use and will protect you all the way, and never even have to tell her that I built the backend for that. I wouldn't have to tell her how it's implemented, but I can vouch for her privacy, her data privacy, to stay there. And yeah, that's my personal vision. I want real applications for real people being built.
Yeah. I have to second all of that, although I'm a bit of a degenerate. Like, my background before getting into the blockchain and crypto space was not as an engineer. It was as a data scientist and options trader. So a lot of my focus is around, like, what can we do with a permissionless financial system and liquidity. It seems to clearly be the killer use case for blockchain to date. Web3 is going to emerge over the next decade, but DeFi could be emerging over the next couple of years as something that we're already seeing integrated into the banking systems. Like, you already see banks embracing a lot of these rails, like, for the first time. Like, I couldn't have said that 2 years ago, but like, now you kind of see some of the stuff that's going on even in the US, but also of course in Asia, where mobile payment is a lot more common. Like, you're finally seeing like real embracement of a more decentralized, more mobile friendly, more user centric financial system. And they don't necessarily consider it threatening to their business if there's a way that they can co-opt it, right? And like, banks are finding their way into crypto, and they're putting crazy price targets on Bitcoin because finally, they're holding, so whatever. Whereas with Web3, I don't think we've begun to even understand how difficult the battle is going to be to truly disrupt a Facebook, a Twitter, something that actually owns what I would consider to be the social layer of the internet, where people even discover new applications or talk about those applications. Like, how are people going to really discover Web3 applications if Google really decides to censor those applications in search or something like that? I think Secret can play a big role in Web3 because, again, like, the things that we do are things that centralized businesses have no incentive to do for their own users. Like, Google wants to exploit and extract the data of its users, similarly to Facebook and all of those products. And you're seeing this play out with how users are reacting to how they're going to treat WhatsApp, sort of the mass WhatsApp exodus onto Telegram, onto Signal hitting the #1 app in the App Store last week. So I think that finally we're going to start to see a lot more interest in like Web3 and decentralizing everything beyond finance. Blockchains just aren't set up to do it yet. But I agree with Ruben, like, that's the biggest killer use case of Secret long-term. And short-term, I think we're best positioned to take advantage of this trend because we're the only blockchain that has the data privacy protections built in by default. It's going to be really hard to see a lot of the things people want built in the Web3 space built elsewhere.
Yeah, there's if I can, there's two things that I want to add to this. First of all, I want to shout out to a project called Humanode. I cannot find their website at the moment. Or maybe I did, but I don't think that's the right website, whatever. They're building basically an identity system on our network. They're using a bunch of technologies, like I think half of the blockchain space is in their portfolio. But they are building a really cool project that uses Secret Network for the privacy of their users. So totally shout out to them. And again, to anyone listening in, there's something else that's on the table as well. You can use our technologies to build your own network for your own applications. It's not trivial right now, and you will need a lot of help from us. But an example of this is a project called SafeTrace that we've built with Intel that allows basically private contact tracing. I'm not going to get into all the details because I haven't been involved in SafeTrace myself. But you can take the principal technologies that Secret Network is built on. You can fork the code base and you can, tweak it to your own needs. So even if people don't build directly on the Secret Network mainnet, which is, what we want to see, you can still build a lot of good things based on this technology.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. So we're 10 minutes out from the end. I'd like to ask maybe a final question before we jump to the questions from the audience. So we talked about Learn. Obviously, it's we hope a big part of the process of growing the ecosystem. But what other programs for devs do you have right now that can help people getting started or growing into your ecosystem?
We have Ruben. Well, as he mentioned,
I'm your study program. You see, join Discord, paste your code, and I'll comment on it. That's our system.
To be fair, that's a big piece of our system, right? Is having a collaborative developer community and protocol development community. Reuven does not scale as well, I think, as some other platforms.
Yeah.
But he's
Only
available,
10
and also, I know. We're gonna get you that surgery. Don't worry. But we're definitely looking to add more programs for developers. I mean, Learn is really our first. Secret contracts went live on mainnet in September. And since then, we've been working to shore up a lot of the tooling in the ecosystem, launch some of the initial products ourselves so that people can go and see out in the world, oh, here's the SNP 20 standard, so on, and have more things to compare their own code to or to use as a jumping off point. Reuven, maybe like we have some sample contracts available that people can also start learning from and expanding, right?
Yeah, we do. We have basically the applications that we've built so far, as well as no, seriously, they're interesting and they show like the various features that you can use. But we also have some super basic, getting started contracts. We have a template, for example, a project template that people can use. That is just like a counter thing where like the value of the counter is hidden. Yeah, we should probably expand the example application directory.
Yeah, for any developers who are listening to this and getting excited to do the Learn stuff and contribute your own tutorials, I mean, you're going to be experiencing the pain points before anybody else. So definitely let Figment team know and our teams know if there's things that you think would have been really helpful for you in your journey getting started with the network, because those are absolutely things that we should be prioritizing. And I think we'll try to do more events kind of like this where we're able to just bring the protocol devs and the application devs onto calls and just kind of walk through some more of the features of the network, features of the applications, kind of as high level or as in-depth as we need to go based on community demand. But it seems like these are always pretty successful and we get very high levels of engagement. And I guess it's almost time to hit the hackathon circuit again. Even if they're just web hackathons, I think we're finally ready to start supporting those in 2021. I feed this cat all the time. Have you seen this cat?
Yeah, I didn't want to
tell me to feed this cat.
I didn't want to say before, but it looks like you should feed her less.
It's okay. She's wonderful. She's beautiful and big boned.
Okay, we want to jump to some of there's some technical questions that got asked in the Q&A section. Maybe some of those we can pick off quickly. What kind of latency is expected when making a call from Secret.js to the blockchain? Is there any difference between testnet and mainnet?
Well, testnet is much less crowded right now, and I'm actually not sure if Secret.js connects to the same node by default as everything else. So if it connects to the same node as all our other applications right now, then you might experience a bit of latency, because we've now with the launch of the bridge and stuff, we have had a large influx of transactions, and people have been reporting slowness. But in theory, the latency is just like 6 seconds. It's just the block latency, which is 5 to 7 seconds. That's yeah. What was the other part of your question? You asked about latency and
yeah, testnet and mainnet. So I think you covered it.
Yeah, cool.
The same person had another sort of technical question. Is there a per contract limit on how much data you can store?
Yeah. So currently, each contract is limited to 12 megabytes of RAM. That is like its runtime is limited to 12 megabytes. In terms of storage itself, you can store, in theory as much as you want, but the way it works in Tendermint, which is like the technology we use for consensus and everything, the cost of storage grows quadratically, I believe. So the more you store, the more it's going to cost, but there isn't like a set limit to this. You can keep storing it and see how much it costs.
Okay, there's another question about just generally what is a smart contract. Maybe that's best served by sharing a link and following up with that, as opposed to just describing abstractly the smart contract. But we see that question we can follow up with that, and maybe also provide some links to specifically what's unique about secret smart contracts. But yeah, that one's a little bit outside of maybe the scope of what we'll answer today.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Just wanted to address that. We saw that. Okay. Did we get all the questions? I know some were going in the chat, some were in the ask a question section. Do we catch them all, I think?
I think so. Maybe earlier questions, but I think we got everything covered.
Okay, great. There's one thing I wanted to bring up at the end, which is I heard you mention earlier, Reuven, something about developer experience and about you're talking about Rust and sort of the powers of it and the ways it gets ramped up with Rust. And you mentioned something about improved, I think it was an improved SDK or a JavaScript SDK. Yeah. Is that something you'd hope to see pop out of the community or be collaborative, or is it something Enigma will take on? When and where do you think that'll be prioritized?
Yeah, I mentioned JavaScript in the sense that I wish it was as simple as developing in JavaScript. Right. It's not a JavaScript SDK. It's like the tooling that you have available to you inside the contracts themselves. So It is actually something that I hope to develop myself if we get to it. But it's definitely something that a community member can pick up. It's a more limited scope problem, and they can, like, if someone wishes to pick up that project, then we'll guide them and instruct them wherever we can. We have some ideas on how to make things simpler. So it can go either way. It really depends what happens first.
Okay, and then if someone is interested in that, hop in your chat, go on to GitHub issues. What's the best way to kick off the conversation?
Yeah, hit us up on Discord. Basically, go to the dev discussion channel and say hi.
Yep. Okay, great. So I think we got most of the questions. Maybe one more just popped in. Let me check that real quick. See if we can answer it now.
This is great. Like a learning curve.
Yep. Are there grants available for community-built tools? So let's say someone did want to go after this. Is there financial support, grant support, token support that they could have access to?
There's a few different paths to funding in the secret network ecosystem, and it really depends kind of what stage of your project you're talking about. The three primary forces for funding are the on-chain community pool, which was actually used to fund Datahub, which is great. So Figment has experienced the on-chain governance of Secret Network, and the community voted in favor of funding that critical network tooling. It goes through like a whole governance process, usually through the forum, and it requires building the will of the community and the validators. But there's an on-chain pool available for this type of funding, and it's democratically, or as democratically as a Tendermint chain can be, sort of allocated to these projects. The two other forms of funding, one is via the foundation. Generally, the foundation doesn't focus as much on development-focused projects like network-level development or application development. We're more focused on grants for people who want to do educational initiatives or content initiatives, or people who want to do like large awareness campaigns, or it's like things around design, just because that's our focus as a foundation. But that said, we're pretty open-minded about everything, because what we care most about is ecosystem growth and ecosystem expansion. And if there's some critical dev tooling that can help it, sometimes we'll also chip in to support those types of projects. The last and largest pool is the ecosystem pool, which was just announced recently at the end of last year. It's 20 million SCRT coins that have been allocated towards essentially, again, those kinds of growth initiatives, but it does take more of a focus towards development, and especially applications for the network, applications that could be critical use cases for the network and get a lot of end user adoption. So if you're thinking about something on that end where it's like, I really want to build this app and I really kind of want like essentially seed stage support for this application, that's what the ecosystem fund is intended to, or the ecosystem pool is intended to do. And then if you're thinking about more like network tooling, it really depends. But it's, again, the sort of thing that if you've got an idea and you take it to the forum or you take it to Discord, because there are so many paths to funding or support in our decentralized ecosystem, just sharing it in the public channels broadly is a good way to start. If it's something sensitive, you could also just bring it to the foundation initially, because we take a neutral stance in the ecosystem. So that would be bringing it to me, or you can write to info@secret.foundation. And I'll put that in the chat as well for anybody who wants to spam me. Fine.
Never write the email, just verbatim. Replace the
ad with an ad. No one's scraping Crowdcast. Who's no one? And if they are, shame on you. Also, Why? I don't know, but yeah, regardless, if you're also thinking about any other kind of initiative, like if it's not even development focused, we have a great community. We have a lot of secret agents, as we call them, around our community who work on a lot of different initiatives. So definitely get more involved in the community. There's 100 paths you can follow to get onboarded further. I think Learn is a really exciting one for developers. You should definitely start there. If you're a new dev to the secret ecosystem, go in our Discord and start learning and earning.
Yep. Yeah. So I think it's a good place to wrap up, which is talking. We sort of started with how you can go from zero to deploying your first smart contract. We ended with people who want to make core protocol contributions, add to the developer tooling. This is much more advanced topics. And so I think the key takeaway is there's support the whole way. There's support for day one people. There's support for people who've been in the project for a long time. And so there's the goal here is that we can bring on developers who have experience with Web3 and want to sort of learn the new primitives. We can bring on developers who've been frustrated with Web2 and think there might be a better way, and core developers as well. So it sounds like there's just a ton of things for people to do, a ton of ways to add and help. So I learned a lot today. Thanks a lot, Tor. Thanks a lot, Reuven, for coming on. And thanks to everyone that we've met today, and hope we can support you along your journey with Secret.
Thanks for having
us. Thanks for having us.
The pathway of life, everyone. So go and start building and earning.
There we go.
Go
right,
learn.